A couple of weeks ago, Nintendo finally graced the Nintendo Switch with a much anticipated, well, fairly anticipated sports title in Nintendo Switch Sports, the sequel to Wii Sports. And while I'm sure bowling and tennis fans have greatly rejoiced, Nintendo did forget one sport in particular: baseball. Even if it wasn't the most complex sport in the original package, there was just something truly satisfying about hitting that ball right into the stratosphere. Thankfully, we already have some alternatives on the Switch to cover anyone's ball smacking needs, such as the recently released MLB, The Show, or Super Mega Baseball. However, there has been one franchise that has been going strong for close to 30 years, from Konami, of all developers. That series is, of course, the eBaseball Powerful Pro Yakyuu, or its translated name, eBaseball Powerful Pro Baseball. They love baseball so much, they say it twice. And now, after giving it a shot, let me tell you, even as someone like myself whose only knowledge about baseball is that you hit the ball with a big stick, I think this game is kind of amazing. So with that out of the way, this is episode 5 of Japanese Gems, eBaseball Powerful Pro Yakyuu. This was written by Marion as always and narrated by myself. Before we start, we should mention that the footage you are seeing here was taken using the Switch's inbuilt recording function. As such, it looks like arse gravy, but on real hardware, the game actually runs quite well on the system and looks nice too. Very smooth, in fact, for the most part, so the footage you're seeing isn't like 100% representative. Let's start with the modes and the baseball gameplay. The moment you boot up the game, you will be greeted by this massive menu. The kind that makes a grown man sweat, especially after laying down $60 for this Japanese-only game. This game has an absolute slew of modes to play, ranging from what you would expect out of a traditional sports game to more arcade-orientated options. So many of them, in fact, that when promoting this game, Konami made a 9-minute overview trailer, and it wasn't anywhere near enough to cover them all. There's even a single-player story mode called Success, which is basically what would happen if you took the Tokimeki Memorial gameplay, changed the main theme from high school dating to baseball, simplified it a bit, and then added back in the dating gameplay for shits and giggles. Because when you think about it, is there really any video game genre that wouldn't benefit from adding dating elements? A rhythm game dating sim? A Tetris dating sim? A Sudoku dating sim? The possibilities are endless. Let's face it, it doesn't matter if you're jamming with guitars, you're jamming with Russian blocks, or jamming with numbers. At the end of the day, you're going to be jamming something else if two people are close enough. But back to this game. In terms of content, it simply dunks on almost any sports game out there. Nintendo themselves should probably take a note or two here. Maybe that way they will eventually release a sports game that feels complete at launch. Sick burn. For this video, we're just going to focus on the ones that we believe could be played and enjoyed, even if you don't know a single word of Japanese. Starting, of course, with the regular baseball match option. You'll find it right in the middle of the main menu. Here, you can choose to play it solo or in local multiplayer with up to 4 friends. Or friends you've coerced into playing, because let's face it, not too many people are jumping at the chance to play a Japanese-only baseball game. There's a little force involved sometimes. There's also the option to take the role of a single player and play it from their point of view, or to play the match as a coach. The first screen you see after choosing a modality is how complex you want the controls to be, although you can later customize all of that in the menus. And the next one will be for the difficulty of your opponents. Once you've picked your team, you can then select your players and better tune the match settings, such as limiting the amount of innings a game has. We do recommend tinkering with these a little bit, since a full match can get kind of tiresome. I don't know too much about baseball, but what I do know is that it's the kind of game you need to take lunch, dinner, and supper with you, because they are long. There's also the option to select in which parts of the match you want to participate. Here are some translated menus to get a better grasp of how to do it. Now, onto the gameplay itself. It is divided into offense and defense. When you're attacking, you simply have to move the cursor with your analog stick and press B to hit the ball. There's also a couple of other things you can do, such as trying to steal a base by pressing X, or bunting the ball with A. You can use this to make your player do a little dance if you feel like being a wanker. You can also change the cursor between a regular hit and a power hit by pressing R, although changing it to a power hit makes it smaller and harder to hit the ball. Once you've smacked that little round bastard, you'll want to spam the L and R to go slightly faster. You can also press X during your run to continue to go beyond the first base, and A to go back. When pitching, you first choose which type of pitch you want, such as a curveball or a fastball, and just like when batting, you press B to throw the ball. If the batter hits the ball, simply move the player to where the ball will fall, then, after catching it, press the face buttons to send it back. Each button represents a base, so B would be the home base, A would be first base, and such. You can also press A when the ball is in the air to do a dive catch, if you feel like showing off. Just make sure you are not in front of a wall, or you could injure your player and look like a total tool at the same time. He ain't recovering from that one. One thing you need to keep in mind is that your pitcher might eventually get tired. Whenever that happens, just pause the game and select this option to change them. That's pretty much all there is to it. This game is extremely easy to pick up and play. In fact, I did try to play it with some real life friends, i.e. non-kidnapped friends, and it only took one match for them to fully understand how it worked. It's honestly a fantastic game for local multiplayer on par with any other first-party game. Moving on to our next mode, which will be Pawafes. This mode is basically like a tournament out of a shonen manga where you face oddball after oddball in a life or death battle. Well, actually no one dies sadly, but if you lose even once, you are sent back to the main menu and have to retry from the start. Thankfully, when you beat your adversary, their main player, and sometimes a couple more, get to join your team. Kinda like a baseball Pokemon, if you will. Each character has its own unique appearance, some being quite cute, and others being, pissed off Jason Momoa? That's definitely Ronan Dex. You can also scout other players between rounds, as well as leveling your own player up with the experience you gain after matches. These stats are the same across all modes, so here they are translated for your convenience. The players that join your team will be automatically leveled up after any match, and that progress gets carried through subsequent runs. There are also some dialogue scenes here and there, but honestly, you can safely skip all of them. They're essentially little more than flavor text. The main appeal of this mode has to be the sheer absurdity on display at all times while building your own team of misfits and weirdos. Kinda like if they made a baseball tournament at an anime convention. Before we get into the next game mode, Eikan Nain, just please take note that this game mode is extremely addictive. And we do not mean addictive only if you're into baseball. No, even if you don't know anything about this sport, this is the type of game that will become a black hole sucking all of your free time away. If you think we are kidding, just take a look at this playtime. Those are hours, by the way. This mode is no joke. Play at your own risk. Now, in Eikan Nain, you'll be tasked as the new coach of a high school baseball team to bring forth glory therein. You first select the year, the name of the school, and customize the uniform to your liking if you wish. You can also customize the name and appearance of every single player, which we do recommend as it makes the whole experience a lot more fun. Once that's done, you'll see this screen with a chain of squares, each representing a day of the month. The squares will have different colors. Each one represents a different type of event. Blue squares, something good. Red squares, something bad. Yellow ones will improve the training efficiency, and the green ones will restore your player's stamina. There are some other unique events. The important ones are the old man, who is a stalker, I mean a scout. A scout that really enjoys watching high school students get sweaty. But a scout nonetheless, what a job. He will value your players, giving them a higher chance of getting chosen to be drafted and becoming a professional player. And finally, the squares with the baseball bat and ball are for trying to make your players learn new abilities. To move through these squares, you will choose one of the cards below, each being a different type of training. These are visually represented with distinctive drawings, so it's easy to know which is which. The higher the number on the corner is the more days you will spend doing the exercise, and the higher the training result will be. Then at the start of each month, you will decide what each player will focus on during that month. Once again, those attributes are the same as in any other mode, but just in case, here are the screens translated for you. Besides that, from the months of November until February, you'll be able to scout players when the scout card shows up. Now you get to be the stalker, ho ho ho! It's not guaranteed that they will join your team the next year, but if their first reaction isn't too positive, you can try multiple times until they feel like joining. Yes, you can wear them down like any good stalker. Eventually, you'll be thrown into a match. However, unlike the other modes, you won't be controlling your players directly. Instead, you'll be giving them orders and hope for the best. The cards on screen represent the different actions they take. You want to pick the ones with the higher numbers basically. The numbers themselves are in line with that player's stats and mood. Each character will also have a special card, but they are single use only, so you'll need to make sure that you don't use all of them straight away. Use them at the right time. There are some skills that are truly broken, like this one that gives the opposing team butterfingers. Finally, when pitching, there's also the option of giving an order that will give the pitcher or the whole team a passive buff, such as increased defense or regaining stamina. The last things missing are items and skills explanation. For the former, they are more or less easy to understand since all of them have unique icons, but just in case, check your item section here from time to time. These items are used outside of matches with effects such as changing the tiles or reshuffling your cards. If there's an envelope with a green coupon, use it and it will give you a new training equipment. Then the items at the bottom of the list will always be stat boosts and skills that you can give to your players. From time to time, when you've gained enough points from winning matches, you'll be given the chance to directly buy those items yourself. Lastly, to save and quit the game, you simply go down to here on the main menu screen and then select this. And that's all there is to it. Even if it seems complex at first, in reality, it is fairly simple to play even if you don't understand Japanese or are an expert at baseball. And personally, I think it's the best mode in the entire game. It's no exaggeration to say that the inclusion of this mode alone makes it worth the price tag. You can easily spend dozens of hours playing this endlessly, and it's so satisfying to see your team slowly grow and improve. It's the type of game that makes you sweat bullets when you reach the finals of a championship, and the sense of satisfaction when you finally manage to win is truly hard to beat. Well, opening a brand new physical game also feels pretty good. Speaking of which, Jordan, say your import spiel here. Alright. So, this is available physically, but of course only in Japan, and it does not have English, otherwise this video would not exist. If you want to take a punt at this physical release and try it for yourself, then check the links below in the description and the pinned comment. You can import a copy and support us at the same time. You can also get a very nice 5% off with our current discount code, Jordan. This code will expire in the summertime, but we will get a new one, so if you're watching this in the future for whatever reason, make sure you're subscribed and then watch the latest Let's Get Physical video every Monday for the latest code discount updates. Digitally, it's 8,250 yen, which is just over 60 bucks in the US, and if you want some eShop credit, then there's Japanese eShop money below in the description too. Alright, back to Mary. Let's take a look at some other modes before finishing off this video, because we're not done yet. No way. First is Power Park, which is the brand new addition to the series. It's presented as an amusement park of sorts, with each mode being a different attraction. However, as of right now, only one mode called Sushi Survival is available, with a couple more attractions coming at a later date. In this mode, you're meant to bring your original characters who became pro players in the other modes such as Eikan Nain or Pawafes, and then create your own personal teams with them. Although the amount of pro players you can include in the team is limited, and even if you can upgrade that number by playing more, it becomes a little bit of a grind. As for Sushi Survival, the game plays like a roguelite of sorts, where you first pick 4 characters from your main team and then add them to a provisional team that's given to you. You then pick your adversary and play a match of baseball. However, during it you will have a limited amount of intervention, so you really need to carefully choose when to play. If you win, you move on to the next round and receive a couple of buffs and debuffs for the next match. Before each round, you'll also be given more characters from your main team to add to your provisional team. But whenever you use one of those players, they will lose a life out of 5. And when they reach 0, they will be destroyed and murdered, and no, they'll just be removed from the team. Once your team is defeated, it's game over, but you will receive XP to level up your main team. It's an amusing mode for an hour or two, but nothing really that special, although the promise of new different modes coming later down the line is certainly interesting. Next mode is Live Scenario. Here the game takes results from real life matches and gives you challenges for each side to create what-if scenarios. If you clear them, you will be rewarded a score and climb up the daily rankings. This is a pretty fun mode if you want a quick pick up and play experience, or for some reason you're a massive Japanese baseball nerd and you want to get off a little bit. Next up is Home Run Attack. This is another quite decent mode, especially for a quick local multiplayer session. It's basically a mini game where you and your friends compete to see who gets the higher home run score. What makes it fun is that you can also use items to screw with them, and you know, who doesn't like pissing people off? And finally, let's talk about customization for a bit because it's quite comprehensive. First, you can create your own teams with this mode here. The fastest way is to copy an already existing team and then modify the characters one by one. To change the appearance and name of the characters, you first press here. And then select what you want to customize. Once again, here are some translator screens to make that easier. We should also mention that these exact customization options are also available in other modes such as Eikan Nain, and you can find them translated right here. It's also worth noting that at the end of each Eikan Nain season, you can save your team as a custom team. You might have noticed that in these screens there is the option to change songs, and that is because you can actually create your own music in this mode right here on the main menu. The music creation tool is a little bit rudimentary, but you can make some interesting sound compositions. Actually, it looks like Konami left a little bit of an Easter egg in here because most of the world doesn't know this, but they actually announced the latest Castlevania game in this game by showing everybody the new theme song. I don't know how this wasn't big news, I guess because not many people have played it, and in Japan Castlevania is not that big, so maybe it didn't affect them so much. But this, I think this might be a world exclusive. Are you ready to hear the brand new Castlevania theme song? Are you ready? Listen very carefully, it's really subtle. But really, the amount of possibilities this game has is almost endless. I mean, just look at this massive twat who turned up on the field one day. What a loser. Alright, the verdict. Remember, we give 3 scores. The first one is out of 10, like a normal SwitchWatch review, and this considers the game by itself, regardless of language barriers. Then we have 2 more scores, one for those who are learning Japanese, like is this a good tool, and the ones who are tools and don't speak any Japanese, like myself. Those 2 scores are out of 5. Why? I don't know. It makes sense, I guess. So this game as a whole, I strongly believe this is one of the best sports titles available on the system. The main baseball gameplay manages to walk the fine line between arcade and simulation while catering to both sides equally. Even if my experience with the Power Pro as a whole is fairly limited, I can safely say that this game works perfectly as a first entry point in the long-running series. The abundance of variety in game modes alongside its overflowing charm and personality makes it a joy to play regardless of one's previous knowledge or involvement within the sport itself. It is, in my opinion, what all big budget sports games should strive for and a fantastic addition to anyone's game library. An 8.5 out of 10. If you're someone who can't read Japanese, I would still recommend giving this game a shot, mainly because its best modes, or at least the ones I consider to be the best, are still perfectly playable even if you can't understand the text. There's a couple that you've been missing, one of them naturally being the story campaign, but the amount of fun hours you can get from Eikan Nain, Pawafes, and local and online multiplayer matches more than justify the price tag. Even if you don't care in the slightest about baseball, I think you should check it out, as it's one of the biggest video game franchises in Japan, and a clear proof that Konami can still develop fantastic games. A 4.5 out of 5. However, for those looking for a game to practice their Japanese, this might not be the best one to do so. While the story mode is fairly easy to understand, there's no furigana support, and you will find quite a lot of baseball related terms, which, let's be honest, not exactly useful unless you plan on becoming a baseball coach in Japan. Maybe. Then it's perfect for you, but on the whole, a 2 out of 5. Alright, many thanks for watching this massive episode of Japanese Gems. Big up to Miguel Marin for writing this as always. Please go follow him on Twitter with the link in the description. Which game would you like us to tackle next? It's been a while since the last episode, but the series, it was never dead, we were just busy with other content. Let us know, and be sure to ask any questions that you may have about this game. Please check out the rest of the series, we'll put a lot of time into them, even if not too many people watch, but we understand that. And check out some of our other content, we got a lot of content for you, so go watch it.